You did not wake up one morning and suddenly know. It was not like that. It was slower than that. It was a Tuesday when he did not text back for 6 hours and something in your stomach moved slightly. It was a Saturday when you were sitting next to each other and you felt, for just a moment, like you were sitting next to a stranger. It was the way he laughed at something on his phone and did not show you what it was. Small things, things you could not point to without sounding paranoid, things that individually meant nothing, but together were quietly assembling into a shape you did not want to name. You are not crazy. You are not insecure. You are not imagining things. Your nervous system noticed something before your conscious mind was ready to admit it, and that gap between what you feel and what you can prove is one of the most disorienting places a person can live. This video is about that gap, specifically about 3 behavioral shifts that show up consistently when a man is emotionally withdrawing from a relationship. Not the dramatic signs, not the obvious ones, the quiet ones, the ones that happen before he has said a single word about how he feels, the ones that, if you know what to look for, tell you everything you need to know long before the conversation arrives. Understanding these signs will not make the pain disappear, but it will give you something more valuable than false hope. It will give you clarity, and clarity, even when it hurts, is always better than confusion. Let us start with the first sign. The first sign is a change in the quality of his attention, not the quantity, the quality. This is the one most people miss because they're measuring the wrong thing. They're counting texts, counting calls, counting how many times he said, "I love you" this week versus last week. And those numbers can look completely normal while something essential has already changed underneath them. Here's what actually shifts first. When a man is genuinely interested in you, his attention has a certain texture. He asks follow-up questions. He remembers things you mentioned weeks ago. He notices when something is off with you before you have said anything. He's present in the conversation, not just physically there, not just responding, but actually curious about you, about what you think, about how your day was, about what's happening inside your head. When that interest begins to fade, the attention stays, but the curiosity leaves. He'll still respond to your texts, he'll still show up, he'll still go through the motions of the relationship, but the questions stop, the follow-ups disappear. You mention something important, and he nods and forgets it by tomorrow. You're talking, and you can feel, in the way you can only feel and never quite prove, that he is not really listening, that he's present in the room, but absent from you.
Psychologists call this emotional withdrawal before physical withdrawal. The mind leaves before the body does. And the first place it shows up is in the quality of someone's attention. Pay attention to how it feels to tell him something you care about. Does he lean in? Does he ask more? Does he remember? Or does the conversation move on immediately, your words leaving no trace, landing nowhere? That landing nowhere feeling, that is the sign. The second sign is a change in how he handles conflict. Specifically, he stops fighting. This one sounds like good news when it first appears. The arguments reduce, the tension decreases, things feel calmer. And you might think, maybe we are growing, maybe we have found our rhythm, maybe this is what a mature relationship feels like. But there is a crucial difference between 2 people who have learned to communicate better and one person who has simply stopped caring enough to engage. When someone loves you and something is wrong, they fight. Not violently, not cruelly, but they engage. They push back. They tell you when something bothers them. They stay in the difficult conversation because they believe the relationship is worth the discomfort of working through something hard. The conflict, as painful as it is evidence of investment. It says, this matters enough to me that I am willing to feel uncomfortable about it. When someone is losing interest, the conflict disappears, not because things are better, but because the motivation to resolve things is gone. He stops bringing up what bothers him. He stops pushing back when you bring up what bothers you. He agrees easily. He says fine or okay or whatever you want with a calm that does not feel like peace. It feels like distance wearing the mask of peace. Researcher John Gottman, who has spent decades studying relationships, identified something he called stonewalling, where one partner emotionally shuts down and disengages from conflict. But before stonewalling becomes obvious, there is a quieter, earlier version, a gradual retreat from emotional engagement that looks, on the surface, like calmness, like maturity, like things being fine. They are not fine. Someone who has stopped arguing with you about the relationship may have quietly stopped being in it. Notice the difference between how conflict feels now versus how it felt before. Does his agreement feel like connection or like absence? Does his calmness feel warm or flat? That flatness, that is the sign. The third sign is the most personal and the most difficult to talk about. It's a change in how he includes you in his future. When a man is invested in a relationship, the future is naturally a shared space, not in an overwhelming way, not in a we have every year planned way, just in the small, casual way that comes from someone who assumes you will be there. He says we when he talks about things coming up. He mentions something happening in 3 months and includes you without thinking about it. He makes small plans, a restaurant he wants to try, a trip he has been thinking about, something he wants to show you, and those plans reach forward in time with you in them.
3. When interest fades, the future quietly becomes singular again. Not dramatically. He does not announce it, but you start to notice that when he talks about what is coming, you are no longer in the picture. He mentions a concert next month without asking if you want to go. He talks about something he wants to do, and the pronoun is I, not we. The small, forward-reaching plans that used to include you simply stop including you. This is not accidental. The future is where our commitments live. When someone begins to doubt whether they want to be with you, the first place it shows up is in whether they are building a future that contains you. The conscious mind can maintain the relationship in the present, can still show up, still text, still say I love you, while the unconscious mind has already started making plans that do not include you in them. Pay attention to his pronouns. Pay attention to whether you appear in his future tense. Pay attention to whether the plans he makes reach forward with you in them, or whether they quietly reach forward alone. Now, here is the part that matters most, the part that goes beyond the signs themselves. If you recognized yourself in any of this, if one or two or all three of these things landed in a way that felt familiar and uncomfortable, the most important thing I can tell you is not what to do next, it is this. What you are feeling is real. The thing your nervous system noticed on that Tuesday, on that Saturday, in that moment of feeling like a stranger, it was real. You were not imagining it. You were reading something true. And the fact that you have not been able to prove it or point to it or articulate it does not make it less true. It makes it more painful because you've been living with the knowledge your mind would not let you fully hold. These signs do not always mean the end. Sometimes they mean someone is going through something that has nothing to do with you. Sometimes they mean there are things that need to be said between you that have been sitting unsaid for too long. Sometimes they're an invitation to a conversation that could change everything. But they always mean something. They are never nothing. And you deserve to stop pretending they are nothing. The question is not whether the signs are there. You already know the answer to that, or you wouldn't still be reading. The question is what you are going to do with what you know. And only you can answer that.
But you can only answer it honestly if you stop waiting for him to say the words and start trusting what you have already felt. You noticed. That means something. What you do with what you noticed, that means everything.